I think. I don't think we've ever had a table this small, have we? Yeah, we have.
But you guys only did, you did breakfast table?
Do you want to check it?
Not with each other, no.
You just.
Well, there, we did once.
Done a couple times.
Hey, that's pretty good.
But it's a little
Is it
like,
recording?
Yeah, yeah.
it's a
When we,
little Bruce Wayne, you know, like,
Yeah.
house is so small.
yeah. It's a little big. But like there,
Stupid.
we've had like a couple, we've done it, but we sit like that, and we don't sit like this. And I don't think we've ever made it small enough where like there's no leaves and it's just round.
It's a circle, you know.
Never done that, so.
Thank you so much.
You gonna do
And there's
it?
salt and pepper there.
Can we do a little toast?
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's to everybody
Thank you.
having a conversation about.
Thank you for the conversation. Welcome, welcome to the Invisible Dinner.
Invisible.
Invisible Dinner. That's what we're calling it.
You guys expunge the record of this dinner from all posterity, is that?
We're
Recorded it
videotaping it.
and then erase it?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that part of the invisible dinner? Yeah.
What was James saying about like entropy, like
Autophagy?
autophagy?
Is that the word
Is
he
that
used?
what it is?
Yeah.
Things that can never become like what it once was? Something like
No, I thought autophagy was something that eats itself.
Self-devoured.
that? Oh, that's
Self-devoured.
I don't know if he said something.
Almost.
Like someone can burn something, it never really become what it was.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Okay.
Oh, James.
So how has your field study been going? Amazing.
I think it's been going pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I think we were we were really thinking a lot about it when we were doing our work, like in like different aspects of like how do we talk about it with the people we're working with, and how do we do something with it? And how would you display it? And, you know, so it's changed though, which is cool. I mean, because I think in the beginning everything is very sort of like aspirational, and then it gets real. You know?
Yeah, I was telling Thaddeus, like, 'cause he was asking me how did it emerge, like, the notion of invisibility and visibility. And it was sort of like a kind of an organic journey to get to somewhat complex and like large, but then also really simple, you know? So we started with invisible structures. We started like even sort of like maybe sexual identity, like how masculine versus feminine,
Yeah.
what part of those aspects do we hide or expose? And I think that they were all really super fruitful and really exciting to talk about, but it was still like kind of, I don't know, still,
Really big.
yeah, still really big. And so kind of landing on the larger notion, or the general notion of invisibility seemed like it gave us more agency to talk about a multitude of things, rather than just,
I mean, because
pretending.
also, like, I think if we remember, like, the beginning, we were, like, talking about invisible structures of support. And we even then just let that go also. Like, we just actually talked about the idea of being invisible and those different, the different ways you are invisible, or, and then sometimes in being hyper visible, how you're actually invisible also. Because people are only seeing what they want to see, they're not actually seeing you. You know? I mean, I did a ensemble or pod, and I had them write about it. You know, when was the last time they felt hyper visible or invisible, and it was, you know, it was, for some of them it was really touching, and like, and the fact that they would let me even, like, the fact that they would like be open enough to do that was great, you know. But some of the stuff they said was like just, some was sad. I was like, I was sad that some of the stuff had happened to them. But, yeah, they thought about it differently than I thought about it, you know?
It's amazing how the
Here's
term,
the day, sorry.
Dancers,
dancers in New York.
the dancers
Oh,
in the arts.
The undergraduates,
Mhm.
I see.
It's amazing how the term has this sort of malleability to bleed over into so many other aspects of this research, artistic research. So already, even landing on that notion has been fueling for my own work, for then pedagogy, for even talking to other people about, like with Joanne today, talking to her a little bit afterwards. But like there seems to be some sort of access point for everyone in terms of how they experience invisibility, or even what that word kind of triggers for them. And so knowing the kind of social political implications of invisibility, I guess I'm sort of curious about maybe even more simply, like what does the word mean to you? You know, or how do you have any sort of relation to it?
Or even how have you ever encountered it, you know, or dealt with it in a way, you know?
And the word invisibility makes me think about, there's something that's really violent about it, and then there's also something that's very comforting about it at the same time, where, like, you know, like I love dancing in the dark. You know, like there's something about like being able to hide that's so liberating, and I don't know, like something about being able to know that you can go into that space or into that like mentality. But then there's also like the violence of it that feels like there are times when you get pushed into it. You know, like there's not the choice gets taken away.
Yeah, the choice.
Yeah, you know, and it's really like circumstantial. Like for instance, there's like when you were talking about hypervisibility and invisibility. Like I recently went to a party for some friends' engagement, and the majority of the people that were there were gay men who were white.
Mm-hmm.
And I stepped into the room and I like instantly felt hyper visible in the way where I was like, I'm definitely one of the only people of color here. And even though I'm, you know, passively white and like, you know, of gay community and culture, there was this moment where I felt very like kind of frozen, where I was like, there's something that's very different. And then in the same time, it was also like, I felt completely overlooked too, you know, like where it was just like, they looked like right past me. And so it was like when you said that, that immediately made me think of that experience. And even thinking about like growing up in the middle of the country and being in, you know, grade school and being one of the only like Asian American students was kind of the same, where it was like a blaring, like I'm very, very different, but at the same time, like no one knew that, you know, like they couldn't understand like the depth of the difference. And so it was like my experience or like my reality was actually really like underneath the surface, you know, like I like don't think they could have comprehended how different they were, you know, or like how they thought about things that their family did, or culture or tradition, how that was like very universal or like very American. It was like, but that's not my experience, you know, and like they would never really understand that. So there was like this like feeling of like, you know, assimilation, or like something that really kind of pushed me into this place of like, no one understood like how I had to overcome difference in a way, you know. But that's what I think about in just what you said. Yeah.
It's interesting. For me, it makes me think like kind of how invisibility is sort of paradoxical anyways, because if you're invisible in whatever sort of context, you're also simultaneously hyper visible. Like you can't just be one. Like I think obviously race
sort of clear example of that, where it's like if you are different, think clearly just visually or perhaps economically or whatever, you're different. And that sort of separates you, and that separation thus makes you hyper visible. Because you're excluded, you're
Mhm.
somehow highlighted.
Mhm.
And,
We
perhaps,
can see you now because you're not in the group.
right. And there's that negative aspect of hyper visibility.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like something that I was thinking when you were talking, and then Miles, when you were speaking, is like an idea of visibility as legibility, and then also projection as what is visible.
Mhm.
Like, I think a lot about projection because of video stuff.
Mhm.
And then my experience in the world is that I look a certain way, and then I feel therefore assigned to certain,
Mhm.
I'm a projectable slate, I feel. Like,
Mhm.
that's what I feel in my encounters with others. And so I feel like actually being able to make visible what's beneath the surface, or what I feel my identity is, like that's something that's important for an artistic practice to me. Like, how do I make myself visible, or how do I make an aspect of myself visible for this group of people or a group of people? What would that look like, and what are those decisions and choices? And then like this idea of, like, is the surface projectable is a question I have. And then another question I had, or I guess the other thing that I said before was legibility, like, what do we read this difference as, or what do we read the sameness as?
Mhm.
And like, yeah, I don't know,
Yeah,
does that
yeah.
make sense?
Totally. It's amazing how much context makes those decisions for us, and like the lack of choice sometimes that we have or
Mhm.
don't have.
Often seems like hypervisibility is always never your choice.
I was never.
Always never. I mean, like, I don't think anybody would choose to be hypervisible. You know, it's always something that's put upon you. You know, that's being put out for show, basically. You know, but I think it's not a, it's a, how am I trying to say it? It's not a,
Hypervisibility?
yeah, hypervisibility. It can be it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it tends to be a bad thing. I guess it also depends on how you choose to react to it, you know? Because, I mean, I know in my experience in my life that sometimes the reaction was to be shamed, like was to feel shamed for being the thing that you were, you know, but as an adult, I almost feel like it's an opportunity now. If somebody like pushes me out front, for me to be like, no, that I'm not what you think I am, you know, like okay, you pushed me forward, but you don't know what you have to push forward. You don't know the thing. You think you know what I mean? So, I don't know, I just think it could be an opportunity as opposed to something worse, you know?
Be curious about the motivations of why someone would push you forward, and even kind of what that means. Like,
White line?
I feel like that a little bit in, were you gonna say something?
No, no, go ahead.
Thinking of performance